Alright, so let's work on problem 924 together. Les Moore retired as president of Goldman Sachs Foods Company, but is currently on a consulting contract for $35,000 per year for the next 5 years. Mr. Moore receives $35,000 a year over 10 years for this consulting contract he has with the company. If Mr. Moore's opportunity cost is 10%, what is the present value of his consulting contract? So this is the problem we're trying to solve. What is this present value? How much is this consulting contract? It's $35,000 a year for 10 years. How much is that worth today? If Mr. Moore is giving up, instead of having a lump sum amount here, he's accepted $35,000 a year. He's giving up the right to potentially have a lump sum payment here that he could invest at 10%. That would basically get him the same return on that investment. So let's see how much that consulting contract is worth to Mr. Moore using our formulas, our calculators. So in our case, what is n in this case? N is the number of periods, so n on our calculators would be 10. The interest rate per period, that's 10 also, 10% interest. Present value, that's what we're trying to solve for. In this case, we have an annuity. This is an annuity. It's a regular payment over the course of a period of time. So in our case, that is our payment. That's $35,000 a year. And our future value at the end of 10 years, that payment is done, that's ended, so our future value is actually 0 at that point. So let's go ahead and get our calculators out and calculate that. So the first thing I'm going to do is clear, C-E-C-E. I'm going to push that button, clear anything that's on my calculator right now. And then I'm going to push, I always do this first, the second button, and then FV, which is the clear time value of money tool there. So second, and then the FB button that clears all of the programmable keys here, the programmable buttons that may have some numbers in them that I don't want involved in my calculation now. So now it's as simple as programming those numbers into my buttons. So 10, type the number 10 and push the N button. Type the number 10 and push the IY button for the interest rate. We're going to leave present value blank at this point because we're going to solve for that. Payment is $35,000 and the future value is 0. So at this point I want to compute present value. Okay, so I'm going to push the compute button and then the present value button, and I get 215,059.85. So this consulting contract to Mr. Moore is worth $215,059.85 today. Okay. And again, remember, because we entered a positive number in for $35,000 here in the payment area, this number on our calculators will come out to be negative. It's just the way it works. So if he were to pay in $215,059.85, he could receive $35,000 a year. That's how much to him that contract is worth. Okay. So then we have B, assuming Mr. Moore will not retire for 2 more years and will not give his 10 payments until the end of the 3rd year, what would be the value of his deferred annuity? So we calculated the present value here, but what if he won't be receiving his payments? Notice the payments start right here of this annuity. Okay, so we calculated the present value here. What if he doesn't, it says here, will not start to receive the 10 payments until the end of the third year. Here's the end of the third year, right? This is the end of the third year. Beginning of the first year, beginning of the second year, beginning of the third year, end of the third year. Okay? What would be the value of his deferred annuity? So we've got 2 more periods here that we need to take into consideration, and we're trying to calculate what the present value is at this point if he can receive 10%. So what we have here is we calculated the present value of an annuity already, which is here. Okay. Now, if this is called a present value of a deferred annuity. Okay, so it's like we're receiving a lump sum amount of this present value here on this date. So we need to do the same formulas, the same calculation that we did similar. So we have our second FV buttons we want to push to clear, and then we have an N that we need to program, IY, PV, payment, and FV. And we're trying to solve again for a new present value. Okay, that's what we're trying to solve for. So what's the present value of this annuity? Okay, we calculated the present value of that annuity as of the beginning of year 3. Now what we're trying to do is calculate the present value after in 2 years, during a 2-year period here of that lump sum payment. So N in this case would be 2 years, 2 more years. IY, we're still using the same rate of interest, 10%. Payment, there is no payments during this 2-year period. This is a deferred annuity. The annuity isn't going to start until the end of the third year. So what we're trying to do is pull this present value back 2 more years to figure out how much it's worth to him. Okay? And then future value is going to be our previous present value. Okay, that is the future value of this contract 2 years before it begins. $259.85. That's what we're trying to calculate. The present value of this number 2 years prior to the start of that annuity. Okay? So based on all of that information, we can enter that into our calculator. So go ahead and clear, and then don't forget to clear your time value of money buttons by pressing second and future value, and then we can go ahead and program this information into our buttons. So push 2, N, 10, IY, 0 for payment, and we can put negative 215, 059.85 in for future value. Push the future value button. Okay, or you can just enter the positive 215, 059.85. It doesn't matter. Remember that the present value will come out to be negative because there has to be, that's just the way it works. And now we can compute. We're going to compute present value here. And we get 177,735.41. Okay, so what that tells me is if Mr. Moore is not going to retire for another 2 years and will not start to receive his 10 payments until the end of the third year, the value of that deferred annuity that we calculated here, okay, the value of this deferred annuity is 177,735.41. It's less than the value of the annuity 2 years later. And obviously it would be, because Mr. Moore is giving up the ability for these 2 years to earn interest on that money. Okay, if he were to receive a lump sum payment, to him that deferred annuity is worth $177,735.41 today, at 2 years before he retires.